I did a video earlier in the week where I shared with you my top 3 picks from the 60 stocks that I follow that I think are the major players in the AI semiconductor, artificial intelligence world that we're going into. And I'm looking at it from the first 3 years because I believe we are involved in a building of the infrastructure. And so the stocks that are going to do best are involved in that building process of creating semiconductors and data centers. And so I gave you the 3 stocks, Iron, AMD, and GTLS, which is charts. And I justified them based on the projected earnings per share over the next 3 years through January of 2028. So I got to thinking, how do my picks of these 60 stock or ranking of these 60 stocks compare with the rankings of Wall Street? So I have a data source that I can go to where I can have access to the Wall Street analyst picks and what the current price is and what they think the price is going to be within the next year to 18 months. And what they do is, like on Apple, they have about 15 people who follow them. And so I take the low pick and the high pick and then average them all to come, what's the average pick for Wall Street? And so I wanted to compare them. So I gave you my 3. Now here's Wall Street's 3. And this was as of Monday. It was ACMR, Iran, again, my number 1, their number 2, and ACLS. ACLS, let's see, is my number 10, their number 3. What I know is these rankings by Wall Street will change because just like today, AEHR is down some 24%. So it was Wall Street's number 7 stock, but because it dropped 24% today, it's now its number 1 ranked stock because of the price differential. And trust me, Wall Street and I know that we were anticipating this drop because they were going to miss earnings in first quarter of 2025. But in 26 and 27, this stock is scheduled to explode. And that's why Wall Street has it ranked. It had it ranked that it was going to go up some 56%. From its current price as of Monday, but now, as I say, it's up over 100% now, and it's its number 1 ranked stock. So what I then wanted to do was put this in a format that my members of my tribe could come to and see the analytics that I've done and how I've ranked the stocks, and then how my rankings compare to Wall Street's rankings, and then I'm going to integrate Wall Street's rankings into my algorithm that I use through about 5 different metrics. I'm going to add Wall Street's metric or picks to it to give me an even more accurate, and that will be on my cheat sheet on what I call my 3-year projection. Let me take you to the computer and show you exactly how that works and how I can give you access to this. Because again, the numbers change on a daily basis, at least Monday through Friday when the market is open. But I think it will give you a source where you can come and you can look at the financials and understand the financials. And then I have the deep. Well, let me just show you. Okay, we're at my website, bestofusinvestors.com, and this is a cheat sheet, and I have a video where I explain it and some definitions, and but I wanted to take you to what I call my tell sheet. I call this a tell sheet because I believe the stock market tells us what they're going to do through the data that we have access to, or some of us have access to, so that we know what's going to happen in the future. And I think it keys basically about projected earnings, what they're going to earn in the future. Because really, why is a business in business? A company's in business to make money. So if its earnings are going to go up and if its revenues are going to go up, well, then its price is going to go up. So all we need to know is which stocks are going to have a price increase as a result of revenue and earnings increase. And if we can gather that information and analyze it and then determine from its PEG ratio whether it's fairly priced or it's overpriced or it's underpriced, and compare that to its PE ratio. If we can do all that, we can figure out what the price is going to be in 3 years. Not today or tomorrow, because events deal with that. For those of you who have been with me, this is nothing new. What you're going to find new is my Wall Street price projections. What I've done is I've gone into the data sources that I have, and I've looked into it and said, okay, what are the Wall Street analysts predicting the price of these 60 stocks that I follow is going to be within the next 12 to 18 months. That's kind of how they do it. I look 3 years, but they look 12 to 18 months. So with that, let's use Apple as example. It's the one on top here. They're saying, these analysts, there's probably about 15 of them that analyze Apple, are giving a high and a low, and then an average of them. And they're saying that Apple's price somewhere between the end of 25 and the middle of 26 is going to be $243.22. Well, it's currently at $235.15. So that's telling you it's going to go up an additional 3.43%, or at least the analysts believe, over the next 12 to 18 months. All right? That's good information. That's data. That's hard data, but it is an opinion. All right? Okay, so let's just drop down one, and you can see that's ACLS. This is a networking company for networking of the semiconductor, or no, the servers, and it is projected to be at $136 somewhere between the 12 and 18 months, and it's currently at 68. So that's saying it's got a 92% potential increase based on the data that the analysts are looking at and analyzing. Now, on my analysis, it's number 10 of my 60 stocks. It's number 3 for them. Here is Wall Street's number 1. This is ACMR research, and it's projected to be $31.20, and it's currently at $71.57. So that's how that ends. Now, there's something that's interesting about this. These numbers will change, such as my number 1 was, as I said, ACMR, but it's really not today. Today, number 1 is here, and that's ACHR. And as I told you, it was down 24% today because it missed its earnings. But what Wall Street and I know is this is a company that cleans wafers in foundries, and as the overall semiconductor business grows, and it is the elite and best system available to mankind at this time, its earnings are going to go up in 2026 by some 56%, and then it's going to go up by another 35% in the following year. So because the price came down, now AEHR is Wall Street's number 1 pick with a potential growth over the next year or 18 months of 114%. So that's how I do this. Now, I do want to come down and show my number 1 was IREN. This is a data center in Texas that works on renewable energy. It finances its growth by also doing Bitcoin mining. I know this because I've researched it. It's my number, as you see over here, it's my number 1 stock. It's Wall Street's number 2 stock with a growth potential, they're saying, of 85% in the next year and a half. I think it's going to be substantially higher. And here's the reason I think it's going to be substantially higher. If we go over here, we're seeing that its average growth of earnings over the next 3 years, average growth is 242%, with a PEG ratio of 0.38. that's ridiculously low. It does have a overwhelming PE ratio, but even with a 242, to get a PEG ratio, you divide the 242 into the 91.44, and you come up with 3.8. So that tells you that this stock right now is underpriced, and it's kind of interesting, even though the analysts are telling us that they're anticipating its price is going to go up 85% in the next year to 18 months. But the world doesn't know that. Jim Cramer isn't telling you that. Fox Business isn't telling you that because they don't dig into the data. They read what each other says. They don't really analyze. They literally don't know how to read financial statements, and they don't spend the time, and they don't have the time to spend the time. Analysts do. Analysts make somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000 a year, and then get paid a substantial bonus if they're right, and that's all they do. They follow these. They put drones over Iran's data centers. They watch what they're doing. They watch they attend their earnings calls, as I do. And then so now the question says that you are asking, okay, Kerry, I've got all this information. I think I can figure out how to interpret, but I need to know what these companies do, because you do. You need to know what they do. You need to know what you own. So what I've done is I come over here and I've created you a deep dive. What this is a podcast. I've gathered all the information about what they do. I've gathered their last quarter earnings report. I've gone and found what the analysts are saying about that, and I've condensed it into a podcast. And it's Samantha and Brad, and they will tell you in about a 15-minute podcast exactly what Iran does and what every one of those other 60 stocks do. And you can see how up to date it is, such as in Iran. I did that podcast on 12/26. So you know if it's current. Here's one on Hewlett Packard. I did it on 1/8, and today is what, 1/14. So you can come here and you can say, okay, how is Kerry ranking the stocks? That's this column here. These are my overall rankings. How is Wall Street ranking them? How did Kerry get its numbers? You're going to see some strange things here. Average annual return for the last 5 years. So if a stock is having a bad year, such as AEHR, how did they perform, though, over the last 5 years? Well, AEHR's average performance over the last 5 years is up 172%. That means that what's happening to them now is not reflective of the last 5 years. So what does AEHR do to do that? Well, you just click on that was done on 12/16, the deep dive, and I'll give you a 15-minute podcast that tells you exactly what they do. Then guess what? Guess what happens next? You make an informed investment decision. You have all the information in front of you. You're not relying on some YouTuber who read an article to you and said, hey, you should buy this. No. Know what you buy. You wouldn't go to a grocery store and go in blindfold through the produce department and buy things based on what everybody else is buying. You want to know what you're buying. You want to know the finances about it. And if you'll page down on here, you'll come to what I call my cheat sheet. And there's everything financial you want to know about a company. What's its 200-day moving average? What's its return on assets? What's its return on equity? What's its PE ratio? What's its PEG ratio? Everything you want to know, and a lot that you don't want to know. But if you want to know it, it's there. And that's my job. Now, it's a lot of work. I'll share with you, it's a lot of work, but I love it. I love it. I love what I'm doing. But what's important is in May, Jensen is going to sell me for $3,000 an AI assistant. And all of this is going to be done by artificial intelligence and supercompute. And I'm going to have about a 8-inch by 5-inch box, 3 inches deep, sitting on my desktop that will fill every one of these spaces and every one of these spaces down here every day. And then when it's done doing that, it will come up here and update any of my deep dives that need to be updated because new current news is coming. And you'll be able to come here and access it. So you'll have no excuse for not getting filthy rich. Okay? You'll have no excuse. What does this all cost me? Well, right now I'm spending about between labor and cost and accessing data and accessing compute, somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000 a month. That's what I'm spending. I'm not going to charge you that. I'm not even going to charge you $2,000 a month. I'm going to charge you $19.95. And if I get enough people, if I get 1 million people paying me, rounded up, $20 a month, this is going to get as good, if not better, than any hedge fund you could sign up for 2 and 20. Now, if you don't know what 2 and 20 is, Google it. This is your opportunity. You're at a crossroads. Are you going to do it? Are you going to take charge of your financial life, join with a group of another 1 million people, and own this, own this stock market? Because you have access to the data. You know how to read the data, you know how to interpret the data, and you know how to know what you're buying. I'm Kerry Grinkmeyer. I'm a retired financial advisor. I'm going to do this as long as I can, and then it's going to get a lot easier for me come after May when Jensen sells me my Samantha and Brad. It's going to fill every one of those boxes for you and me. And from that point on, we don't have an excuse to change our financial lives. See you at next Friday's Stock Talk.